You're about to discover how creative real estate investing can change your life. How would everything be different for you if you made an extra $120,000 this year? Would your stress levels finally come under control? Perhaps your health would improve and you'd finally gain the control you want in your life. That can be transformative to your relationships and your family and change the course of your future for generations. Now, money can't solve all your problems, but it can certainly provide you the stability, protection, and confidence to change your life and shift away from stress and anxiety. Spend more time with the people you care about and realize the potential you have when you're free to pursue your passions and goals. The opportunity creative real estate provides is a game changer, and today you're going to meet Scott and learn how he has used it to transform his life and his family's future. Scott worked on 2 deals simultaneously that netted him over $120,000 in profits, and he's going to share all the details with us. If you want to know whether creative real estate will allow you to create financial independence, you need to watch this interview. Hi, I'm Brian Bush with Freedom Mentor, and for nearly 20 years, our team has transformed people from all walks of life into incredibly successful real estate professionals. We provide these real-world stories of our apprentices' experiences and real estate success to help you realize the power of creative real estate to allow you to achieve financial freedom. Throughout this interview, if you have any questions, text FREEDOM to 305-315-8030 or comment below. Now, let's meet Scott. Well, Scott, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. There's a couple deals that you've closed that I'd very much like us to talk through, but perhaps to get us started today, you could introduce yourself and take us back and tell us what were you doing before you joined Freedom Mentor?
Yeah, I'm Scott, and before I came on, I was in construction management, worked for quite a few large construction companies, and was generally satisfied. I actually graduated in the field, generally satisfied with the work. I always wanted to work in construction, enjoyed it, but was frustrated with the uh, lack of sharing of the profits or the benefits of the company, where after year I'd put in long hours and wasn't able to spend as much time as I'd like to with my family, my young family at the time, and met with the financial advisors and planners that were through our 401k and retirement funds every year, and sit down with them, whether it be at the office for the company I was working for or in my home with the financial advisors that I was working with. And they would give me the same story over and over again that, well, this is great. The market looks great, and then they tell me about their beach house and their boat and their, and things that they have. And I'm like, man, I don't have any of that stuff, but I keep pumping my money into this, these retirement funds. And I just wasn't seeing the return. I just was really frustrated. And I decided enough was enough. I was going to take my financial future and my personal accountability, I guess, for myself and improve on it, and decided to make the move. And I researched a couple of different partners, a couple of different programs like Freedom Mentor. And after learning more about Freedom Mentor, I was really interested and I said, I think I want to do this. And thank goodness my wife trusted me with that effort and said, yeah, I'll back you on that. And it was a stretch for us. Like I said, we were in quite a bit of credit card debt, and things were, not great financially. We were okay. I mean, I had a good job. I was making good money and benefits and all that, but it was, we never had, we could never take a vacation and be paid for it, have to go on a credit card, or, and especially when prices would rise on different things. And it was a struggle, which bills would we pay? We used to make jokes about which bills can we pay this month? Can we pay the, you know, the energy bills, or can we, make sure we got enough food, or can we do this, or can we go out once, every 2 months to dinner? Can we do something? Or son's birthday's coming up. Can we throw a party for him? Can we afford to pay for this or that? And just really frustrating when you work those kind of hours and you want your family to provide for your family and have some level of freedom to do what you want to do, to not have that, year after year got frustrating to me. And I guess that's what made me decide to do something else. And to do this, I thought was the best option. And it's proved to be a wonderful development for myself and for my family and financially and for so many other reasons.
That's excellent. So you were in that rat race and just barely keeping up, just trying to stay above board, looking towards that retirement eventually, but not feeling like you're getting there. You came across an opportunity. What had you decide to apply to Joy Freedom Mentor? You said you looked at a couple different ones, but why Freedom Mentor in particular?
I think it's funny. I had one that, I did have, I still, I always try to do the right thing as far as funding my 401k for so many years. And at this point, I had, you know, almost 15 years in construction management, working for pretty large companies. And I had consistently done the right thing, quote unquote, by putting the money into the 401k every time pre-tax and all that of my paycheck. And I remember going to a seminar, a local seminar for another real estate investment program. And their big thing was they wanted to know how much money I had in my retirement fund and how we could take that money out and put it into their program with them. And that was one of the first programs I looked at. And I was really nervous about taking what I had saved, even though it wasn't, in my mind, bringing the return that it really should have. And despite all the bells, all the smoke and mirrors that the financial advisors would put in front of me and show me the return year over year and this and that, I was still leery of losing what I had there. And then when I came across Freedom Mentor, just listening to Phil and a lot of the videos he puts out and some of the information he provided was so matter of fact. And it was more about growing and becoming a CEO, of your own company and really taking control of your future. And then once I actually dug in a little bit deeper and talked to some of the people at Freedom Mentor, was, it wasn't about, you're going to be, it wasn't focused on the fact that, hey, you're going to be super successful. This is just going to be magic. It's going to be, you're going to get rich quick. It wasn't that at all. It was very straightforward. Like, this is going to take a lot of effort. This is going to take some time. You're going to have to grow as a person to make this happen, and you're going to have to do it. No, we'll be here to help provide some of those resources that you need to kind of develop and work with you. But it was really, again, the accountability portion of it was, hey, you're going to become a better person and you're going to learn how to become a CEO. And we're going to show you, because we've kind of been through without making a lot of the pitfall mistakes, because we've already made them. And that was a little different and really refreshing to hear. It was a different approach than a lot of the other programs, like, hey, we're super successful and you're going to be successful like instantly. Just give us all your money and we're going to make you super successful. And it's like, it doesn't really resonate with me. So I guess that was the real thing, was the reality of the message. It was very clear that this is not a get rich quick, going to happen overnight, and again, it was how much time, effort, and money do you need to invest? But again, it's in the marketing, it's in the different parts of the business that you need to invest in to become a brick and mortar business in this day and age, the marketing, the digital marketing, and that kind of stuff that you have to learn. And I don't know, it just caught my attention. And I said, you know what, this is the one, this is the program I wanted to go with. And I'm
Yeah,
ultimately super thankful that I did.
that's great. So you saw a real opportunity, not just a dollar sign, get rich quick. You were told this is going to require hard work. I'm curious, did you at any point consider pursuing real estate on your own?
I did. I did actually. I had some acquaintances that were in the real estate investment market and it had already started years before me. And I was friendly with them from when I was young, and I reached out to them, and they actually, a couple of them were kind enough to show me how they did it. And everybody's kind of got a different route that they take, I guess, or avenue that they use. And one of my good friends that actually is a few years younger than me, that I had a a small business when I was coming out of high school, actually through college, and he worked for me, and he started doing became pretty wealthy, and he did pretty well for himself. So I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, would you help me out? Just show me how you do what you do." And he did a lot of flips and didn't really do a lot of holds, a little bit of holds. I did have some properties that he did rent out, but it was more of the flipping. And the way he did it, it wasn't sustainable for me because I had two young children at the time, coaching teams and that kind of thing. And he actually would go out and he was friendly with an agent that would get these properties off market and also be his hard money lender and give him the opportunity to come in, obviously use the hard money. That agent would get the interest on the hard money. He'd come in and do the renovation himself, basically top to bottom. Would go in. He'd work a regular job 9 to 5, get out of work, go right to the property and work on the property from like 6 at night till 11 at night. Go home, do the same thing 5 days a week, and I commend him. That's how he did it, and and he was willing to let me in, and he was, he wanted to partner on a project. I just said I don't have that time. I can't not see my family. There's really no point in doing this if I'm not going to be around, to literally not have time for my family. So that was one option where I looked at it doing it, without any kind of a mentor program or working for somebody or working with somebody that could show me the way to do it while actually still living your life because, it comes at you quick, right? You spend a lot of time, you think you want all this. And I think a lot of people realize at a certain point in time, some things aren't worth, you trade one for the other. So do you want to give away all that time with your family to have more money in your bank account? And then maybe when you want to go do those things and spend that money and go on those places you've never been, or live in those places that you can't live, that maybe you don't have your health then. And that kind of is the way I've always looked at it, that I want to make sure that I'm able to do that and actually still enjoy it, and that's, along the way, because it's that was the concern for me. So this was, again, a much more intelligent way in my mind to do it. And that's, from the way that this system and program is set up, the amount of time it takes. I think you had mentioned too, I still maintain a full-time job, do this, doing a few deals a year and making that extra money, have been able to elevate my financial situation, been able to improve my relationships, not only continue my relationships with my family and my kids and my wife, but also improve on them and spend more time with them and be able to focus on that. And again, some of the lessons learned along the way is putting up those barricades, right, or barriers to make sure that, I think one time you and I were talking and you had mentioned that you don't work Sundays. And that's something now that even when a lead comes in or something comes up on a Sunday, I've kind of started coaching myself like that can wait till tomorrow. If I'm spending time with family or what have you, or on a Sunday, it's like that can wait till tomorrow. I'll get right on it. On Monday, I'll get up and I'll be there to do it. But there is time to kind of separate and barricade and make sure that you lock up that time with the people that you want to be with while you can be with them. So,
Absolutely. That's great.
yeah.
So, and it really fits in with what you identified. It sounds like early on that you saw that this opportunity was going to be building a business that was going to require you to grow and make strides and advances personally, because it really all ties together. Your business is not apart from yourself individually, and if they're going to be congruent, it's really an extension of you, and yet leveraging your time, as you said, in a more intelligent way. So it sounds like you saw some of the benefits to working with Freedom Mentor and finding a better way to approach real estate that didn't just take all your time, all your sweat and labor after your regular job that would have left you with nothing time wise for your family. So it sounds like you found the right fit there, and really that takes us to what I'd like to talk about and focus on here. You just closed a couple deals that were really running kind of simultaneous, one a little longer than the other, but between the two, you made over 120,000 in profits. And as you said, adding to your bottom line every year, that's the kind of the money that most people don't make in a year. That adding to your bottom line has to have had made some major transformations in your life. Could you tell us some about these two deals?
Yeah, absolutely, be happy to. The very different deals. One of them was a single family home, a little bit of land with a detached garage. It was a young family. Um, this gentleman was finishing his military service in the area and finishing his duty, and he was getting ready to retire from the military and start a new career. He was in his early 30s and had been doing the military thing since he was 18. And while he did the military thing in the area, he got to know a young lady. They ended up getting married, starting a family. He had two young children. They had the desire when he was going to start his next chapter of his life and his new career, they were going to move a couple of states south and decided to reach out to an investor to get an offer instead of the traditional um, agent route, and just looking for different services to help them clean, move, that kind of thing, and really update the property that he didn't have the time to deal with because of the two young children and his wife, and trying to move the family and get his retirement straightened out with the military. So he reached out. We met a few times. I provided my offers, and he was super excited about it. Both him and his wife were enthusiastic about the opportunity. They knew because they had bought at a good time that they were still going to make a good sizable amount of money. They were okay with allowing me to come in and help them out with some of those other services, in order to make a little bit of profit on that as well on the backside. And they were super happy with the whole process, and it worked out wonderfully for them as far as accommodating what they needed to make happen, and minimizing the stress of that situation. And now they're with their extended family, and they're much happier where they are, and everything worked out wonderful for them.
So that property then, you purchased that one, remind me, was it around 290,000?
Correct.
Okay. And you put some
Yep.
money into that deal to do some improvements to the property. I think it was around 13,000, right?
Correct. Yeah. So the property needed extensive the general condition of the property, the way they left it. They really didn't want to deal with moving stuff, getting rid of stuff, any of the furniture they didn't want. So we cleaned out the house for them, helped package some of the stuff they did want to move so they could get that done and get it shipped down to the new residence. um, the basement had some water issues, so we had to go in and find the source of the water infiltration, and stop that. So we did that waterproofing, and then we went in and redid, because the basement was finished, and we actually went back in and refinished the part that was damaged and replaced those pieces, um, and fixed that up. And then really from there, it was just a general cleaning. And also there was some minor exterior things that we needed to do, some work to the front porch, some work to the back steps that were deteriorated. We had to take out and replace those coming off the back slider to a patio. And then that was it, really just maintenance stuff. As far as, it had a septic, we had to get the septic pumped, and
Okay.
um, yeah, it was just some minor touches from there.
Yeah. So you took over at 290, but I think you took over subject to. Do you remember how much you got the seller?
I want to say it was around 20,000. I'm going to say they got about $20,000 at closing, just shy of that, maybe
Now, if I
total.
recall, 5,000 of that was when you took over subject to, but the other 15 was when you resold the property, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So it was really just five up front. Then you put money into, it sounds like you really provided the easy button, right? He didn't want to mess with where's the
Right.
leak coming from? How am I going to deal with the moisture in the basement? Don't want to handle landscaping and all the things the agent would want me to do to get it ready. And you were able to even guide him on getting things moved, helping with the transition, everything else. So it sounds like you kind of provide a service start to finish there for someone that just is looking for what's the easier way to get this done. Just tell me what I'm going to get, when I'm going to get it. And if we agree on a price, let's move forward. Is that kind of how you approached it?
Exactly. Exactly. It was, providing them, the resources that traditional real estate sales method would not provide them. And
Gotcha.
like you said, the easy button, and that's typically how I approach a lot of these situations when I meet with sellers and I just find out about what they're looking for and what they're looking to accomplish is,
Mhm.
what do they need to make their life this transition, which is it's always a big transition. I've done quite a few deals now and that's something that's always impressed upon me is that no matter what the reason is that people are moving from one residence to another, no matter how long they've been at the previous residence, how long, what their intentions are, how long they're going to be at the next one is it can be very stressful. It can be filled with anxiety. There's a lot that goes into it. And, if we can take some of that pressure off of them by providing whatever services it is that relieves that pressure, that's been a real it's been a real point of success for the company. That's really what's helped us grow is finding out what those pressure points are, finding ways to relieve that pressure so these people can focus on that next phase of life. And that's what excites me a lot about it when I hear these clients come back and say, "Hey, this worked out great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Scott."
That's great. And that personal approach, building rapport, understanding people's needs, and not just trying to fit it into a one size fits all box, but rather being creative in your approach. In this case, subject to, you were able to get the seller the money he needed temporarily to get transitioned, helped with that transition, then added value to the property, put 13 into it, and then you were able to resell that property. Do you remember what you sold the property for?
Yeah, it was right around 400. Yeah,
Excellent. And so you got the seller the balance of his money after you resold the property and realized your profit. And that one, I think, made you the better part of 70 in profit, right?
correct.
That's
Yeah, we
great.
made just about, I think it was just over 75 we made on that one. Yep.
That's excellent. And how long was that process start to finish?
I want to say they reached out to me in like September, and he knew that his retirement was coming. There was some paperwork and so forth with the military. Everything goes slow with the government. He knew that it was going to be a slow process, and he knew he had to put in so many more hours and days or whatever shifts he had to do with the military. And so I want to say we initially signed the contract in October. That's the subject too. So that was the delay. By the time he got that done, where I could actually take over the property, and he was transitioning down to that other state, it was December, and that's when I took over. That initial payment was made, and he moved on from there. We actually started executing that subject to process.
Click subscribe and add alerts so you can get more real world real estate wisdom that you'll hear nowhere else but here.
And then you spent kind of the coldest months for your location making the improvements to the
Yep.
property and sold that property, I think, in mid February to realize your profit. But simultaneous to that, you had actually started another deal in December. And that was the other one that ran concurrent. And I have down closed and funded the exact same day. But this was
Right.
a different deal. Could you tell us about that one?
Yeah. So this one was a single guy that had purchased a condo in like a large building. It wasn't like a newer development. It was an older mill building that was renovated, and it was really nice, all hardwood floors, and they had updated it. And he had purchased it a few years earlier, had quite a bit of equity in it, had it listed on the market, going back again to like late summer, and actually had a buyer. So there was an agent that he had on the seller's on his side, on the seller's side, and there was a buyer's agent, and they went through the whole process. And then he found out right before closing that they couldn't get a loan because of the required questionnaire for the condo. And it's a big deal with a lot of these loan providers. A lot of these banks don't like to give out loans because of the nature of a condo and the HOAs and everything else. And the management company refused to complete the questionnaire required for a lot of these loans. So he explained it to me. And, once I gave him my proposal, and he said, "Listen, if you can make this happen, great. I don't think you can make it happen." He's like, "I am thoroughly convinced I'm going to just walk away from this property. If this doesn't happen, Scott, by the time you say it's going to close," and I think it was a 60-day close he gave me on that deal. He said, "I'm just going to walk away from this property and let it go to foreclosure." And I said, well, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to find a way to make it happen. And not being an agent myself, I said, let me figure this out. So I got in touch with my closing attorney. We talked about the situation that he explained to me. Through our investigation and my attorney's experience actually helping out with this, and digging a little bit deeper, we actually found a local credit union that had a different portfolio type of loan mortgage that they would provide on these types of condos that didn't have the extensive questionnaire required for a lot of the traditional, FHA or federally backed or even conventional mortgages. So once we made that connection, I actually spoke with the bank before I had the buyer lined up. I had known the loan officer, talked more about it. So I understood the program. We did get a buyer. I actually, one of the first conversations, once we agreed on that purchase on the back end with that buyer's agent, I explained the situation, and she didn't know at the time. She had never dealt with this before. And I said, you really want to work with this bank and talk to them, because they can provide the loan that your buyer needs to make this purchase happen. They did. They ran through the process, did the application, did everything, got the pre-approval. The bank sent over the application, which we then got the management company to actually complete, because it was a much shorter, one-page, simple, straightforward questionnaire that didn't have a lot of open-ended questions that could be. And I guess that's the issue with these management companies, that there's certain issues as far as structure and, getting a structural engineer to approve or inspect the building so frequently, and and different things that they don't want to be held accountable or responsible for, down the road. And that's why they refuse to do this. But this questionnaire was very straightforward. And they were able to complete it satisfactorily to the bank, in turn getting that buyer to get that approval for that loan and be able to purchase that property. The seller was ecstatic that he actually not only didn't have to have a foreclosure on his record, but he actually made some money, made some profit on the condo that he owned, was able to close within the time frame that we agreed to. He got all the money that we agreed to. The new buyer came in. He got a condo at a great price. He came in with quite a bit of equity, and I was still able to make a profit on that, a substantial profit on it. So it worked out for everybody. And that one needed less than $1,000 worth of work, which was good as far as repairs and updates. It was a much different project, much different process, but at the same time running concurrently with the other one that I was doing. So it was kind of a fun little couple of months there to get those done.
Right, and that one took about half the time of the other deal. Again, started in December, closed it in February, and that one netted you just over 45,000, right?
Correct.
That's wonderful. So learning how to overcome the obstacles, learning how to use techniques that are going to be creative, that are going to find solutions. You sidestep some of the mistakes that others had run into and had just thrown in the towel. And that's such a unique thing that we run into, is we come across problems that others have just thrown their arms up, and we look for unique solutions that are custom fit for the situation. And that's oftentimes what we see people run into, is we just need the right professional to work with. Sounds like you were the right professional, and of course this wasn't your first deal, so you have some experience under your belt. But being able to recognize what is worth your time, what should I steer clear of, obviously very important. You were working these simultaneously, closed them on the same day, made over 120,000 between the two. I mean, that's a game changer for most folks in life, right? For the future. What was that like for you?
Absolutely. It's and again, it's funny. It's very freeing, and go back to Freedom Mentor. It's very freeing to not be handcuffed financially, to be able to not carry a credit card balance, to be able to pay all your credit cards at the end of the month, to take a vacation and pay for it. So you can take your family on vacation and pay for it, which we did, and enjoy that time and not have to saddle yourself with debt, actually paying for that, and knowing that it is paid for. It's a total game changer. And, you look at life a lot differently, and as the business grows and continues to succeed, and that's one of the things I think my family has seen, and my sons especially, and the discussions we've had about it is you really want to strive, and that's the goal, is to strive to the point where you do what you enjoy. And not every day, I'm not saying every day is sunshine and roses, but for the most part, you get up and you're excited about what you're going to do that day and the task you're going to perform. And there's a level of fulfillment. There's few and far people I've met in my life that know from day one if they're gonna be a doctor or they're gonna be whatever, and they go to school and that's the path that they chart, and they're just gonna go that route, and it continues, right? There's very small percentage of people in life that are able to do that and be fulfilled doing it as well, because a lot of times what you think something is as a career is very different when you get there. And that was kind of my experience with construction management, where, okay, I thought it was going to be one thing, and, you have an idealistic view of it, and then you get in to do it in the grind day after day after day of doing the same task over and over again, can really beat you down spiritually and emotionally.
Yeah.
And to get to the point where you've enjoying things, you're actually waking up in the morning excited about tackling whatever those tasks are. And it might be a little bit of a challenge, but it's not the challenge that it's a grind. It's a challenge. What can I learn about this, and how can I get better through this process?
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
kind of a shift in mindset, right?
Sure. And it's a journey. And that's really, what you've been experiencing as you've worked with us. You're very close to graduating. I know. I think you have a deal in the pipeline now that's going to get you there. But that journey, such a transformation that takes place, bringing you from that place where you couldn't even, pay your credit cards on time sometimes, and you couldn't take your family on vacation, just struggling to make ends meet, and then to get into that position where you're on the right track. You're adding, an extra six figures to your income each year, which transforms everything. I know you've mentioned you have your sons involved, helping, and possibly going to work with you ongoing in the future, which has got to be so wonderfully fulfilling.
Every successful real estate investor has a mentor. Get mentored by me and my team by applying to be my next apprentice. Click the top corner.
You're very close to graduating. I'm curious, as you started this, as you mentioned, you learn about what you're getting into as it goes, and it's not always what you thought it would be. When it comes to working with us, sharing in profits, what has your experience with the profit sharing been? Has that been what you thought it would be?
Yeah, and it's one of those toughest questions when you're sitting down, and really when I was contemplating the whole program, about signing up for the program and coming on board, is you're going to have to achieve a certain amount of success to graduate, and we're going to split that, and even along the way I've run into multiple investors, and that are, whether they do it for themselves or they have other partners that they don't tell you about, and and they're like, what are you doing? This isn't rocket science. You don't need that. That's, I tell you, all the people I can count on one hand, all those people that have helped me out in any of the deals, or anytime I can turn to them, is zero, because none of those people are actually going to ever help me close a deal. And they're going to try to make sure that they, in my experience with them, unfortunately, is, they're going to try to find ways to take as much of, take as much money out of your pocket as possible. And that's just the nature of business and life. And without that direction, that without that accountability from Freedom Mentor and from you and from Phil and the partners over there, and there would be no profit to split. So for anybody that's concerned about splitting the profit, it's better to make 50% than it is to make 100% of nothing, and to be accountable to the partnership. Like I said, to have you reach out after a couple of weeks, you don't hear from you, like, hey, what's going on? Do you have something in the pipeline? Is something going on? We talked about this lead. Have you followed up on it? And I think that that's invaluable. I think that's invaluable. So the profit split part of it it makes you appreciate it. Uh, and again, would it be great to make 100% of it? Yeah, but could you really have gotten there with that 100%, but without the counsel and the advice of people that have been there before and have, because you comes right down to the last minute too. A lot of these deals, the closing, right? You work on this deal for months and you're at the closing and we'll get a closing statement. You and I have reviewed them before, and the CD, we're looking at it going, wait a second, there's a unrealistic, fee, or all of a sudden it's, well, we need to do this, or the attorneys throw you a curveball and, we're not, you're not going to get this amount. This has got to go here, or and to work through those issues. I mean, I remember instances of some of these closings where, it's difference of tens of thousands of dollars, and it's last minute decisions that other attorneys are throwing in there. And without that discussion and that check and that balance to make sure that this is correct, it would have been dramatically different in a lot of those closings, and I think you and I have had a lot of those heated discussions, because not between us, but because of the situation. And of course, every closing is a scramble, right? It never goes like, as scheduled and planned, because people wait to the last minute and everything is thrown at the wall at the last minute. And sometimes it's intentional, so they can misdirect and they can distract you and make you walk away and say, yeah, I'll give up that $3, $4, $5, $10,000 to make this happen. And it's sometimes just a ploy. And most times it is just a ploy, and that's not really what's going on. But to have a partner that helps and has seen thousands of deals go through and has experienced this multiple times before. I know I've, closed a bunch of deals where I've been like, taking a deep breath and just kind of recollecting everything in my head afterwards. Like, man, if I didn't have Brian to walk through me with that, I would be, we would have gotten that stripped from us, which isn't fair, but that's just the way the world is.
Yeah.
So I'm more than happy to pay that. I mean, I'm more than happy to pay that split. And it's been, yeah, it's been a great experience. I mean, that it's no, and I've actually learned to appreciate it. It's part of it, and if your money's going to the right place and it's being utilized the correct way, you're okay with it, right? So this is something where I feel like, again, I wouldn't be where I'm at without the guidance and the assistance. So I think it's something that I've come to appreciate.
That's great. Well, I'm curious, what kind of advice, with the experience you've gained, what kind of advice would you give your younger self?
Start as soon as possible. Get going in real estate right away. That's basically what I've told my sons is, you need to invest in real estate right away. The earlier the better. It's one of the few investments that it's not going anywhere. If you have a solid piece of property, you have a solid real estate, people need a place to live. There's only so much land. There's only so many houses available. And, especially in nice communities with good schools, and you get the right situation and get going, and I wish I had started much earlier. And I meet younger real estate investors, and that's my advice to them is keep going, and yeah, it's not always easy. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be a couple of struggles that you got to get through, but in the long run, you'll be super happy that you did, because, I see it now, and, I'm moved advanced in my career at this point. And, if I had started this 10, 15, 20 years earlier, my wife and I talk about all the time, we'd be in a much different place with our family, and that's the truth of it. It's a great path to wealth and a great path to prosperity for anybody if they do it correctly.
That's great. What kind of advice would you share with someone that's considering applying to Freedom Mentor now?
So I think the program as developed is phenomenal. I think Phil has developed some incredible learning material, and it's an investment, not just again in your financial future. It's an investment in your whole self. It's an investment in you becoming a better person. And like you had said, closing 2 deals at once, still working a full-time job, managing my family, trying to enjoy myself, going through the holidays, through those 2 deals that we had talked about. You prioritize what you need to do that day. So your to-do list may be a mile long, but if you don't do 1, 2, 3 things, nothing else matters. And once you start realizing that, and through this program, I've been able to identify those a lot easier. And I think Phil puts it best when he says, you got to find the fastest path to money. Right? One of his favorite expressions I've heard him say is, you've got to find the fastest path. So what do I need to do to make sure this deal closes on a certain date? Whatever it is, you may have 2 or 3 deals going. You may be working 2 or 3 prospects at the same time. What item you need to, and again, through those experiences, what can I learn through this? So this program helps you skip past the fall down, going backwards, taking 3 steps back to move forward again. This program will accelerate your growth and your potential. And that process for me, has been fantastic. It's just been, and just checking things too, and verify, like, what is truth? What is the truth that's out there? And you learn to verify things you learn to do the homework. You learn to, in the anxiety of a lot of these things, I remember the first couple of deals, being super stressed out and being worried about things and being anxious, and I still, not perfect, obviously, still have some issues with getting through certain things, but take things in stride. You learn to slow down and think really about what's going on. And the program helps you develop and evolve as a person. It has with me anyways. It's really helped me evolve in total as a person.
That's wonderful. And I would absolutely agree with that. I can tell you that from the confidence that I see you coming in to some of the calls that we have and the deals that you're working on. And you've already taken these steps. You've already explained these pieces to the seller. You've already structured it. You're just a lot more comfortable and confident. And I think that absolutely translates to the seller that you're working with that is stressed, has a problem, needs a solution, needs to make sure they're working with the right professional that can solve their problem and bring them to a successful close. And you convey that because your experience has built that in you. And that can't but, as you're saying, really just affect your whole person and your whole attitude, the way you're building rapport with people, solving problems, thinking critically. It really is all connected. So I absolutely agree, and I've definitely seen that in you. Thank you for sharing that, Scott.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let me ask, where are you at with real estate now? I know you're close to graduating, but what kind of future plans do you have?
So right now we're working on working on a family renovation for a flip. I closed subject to on a property, and we're got everything dialed in right now. We're getting all the interior renovations done, and we're going to hopefully get it on the market in maybe 4 to 6 weeks time, and get that one sold. And hopefully that one's going to get us over the finish line here with our initial Freedom Mentor agreement, and graduate from that. And going forward, I am definitely interested in doing more deals. I want to do more long-term holds. And that's something where I think both of my sons are interested in right now, are doing more long-term holds and providing to them that start for really now. And that's what my wife and I are kind of focused on. I'd love to have a few of our own as far as, rentals that I would hold. But I definitely want to get both of my sons set up in some kind of whether it's a multi-unit or a kind of a house hacking situation where they could start off by not having a crushing mortgage on a single family that they're paying for, and they find ways to get that paid, set up systems so they have the right people there and they maintain the property, learn those systems, and maybe start acquiring more and more properties to build a portfolio. And at the same time building my portfolio with my wife, so we have a few more pieces of that retirement puzzle figured out. So when we do get there sooner than later, as it comes every year, quicker and quicker and quicker, that we have other means other than that 401k. And, I mean, all those things that we can't control, that all our retirement investments are in, we really can't control them. This is something that we can control. And my goal is to continue to accumulate real estate assets that I can control to build my future for my own retirement, and also to see my sons build generational wealth for their future so they don't have to be in a situation where they're financially strapped. So that's my goal with real estate going forward.
That's wonderful.
Got questions? Simply text the word freedom to 305-315-8030 and we'll help you.
After being an apprentice with Freedom Mentor, how has your life changed now and for the future?
I think you nailed it. I think with your comment, I feel more confident. I feel like I'm a better decision maker. I'm better with organizing my time. I'm more accountable to myself when I look in the mirror of what is my fault and what I can control, and owning that, instead of, blaming other factors on my success or failure. It really comes down to what can I do and what can I do better. And I think that that's a big part of it. And again, that's something that, being a parent, and I know that you have the same thing, close relationship with your children, and to see that impact on them, as I've grown through this process with Freedom Mentor, they see that, and that gives them inspiration, break out of what they thought they could do and to grow as people.
Wonderful. That's great. That's so rewarding and so much of a goal and calling as a parent to really help the next generation to do it better than you've done it, and to have the vehicle to do it is what's so important. Any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
It's funny, and I say it to a lot of the clients I work with over the years, and it almost sounds a little corny, but the word I used before is fulfillment. And on top of the financial fulfillment, professional fulfillment of doing this, and learning these new skills, and the negotiation, and reading through people and reading through these situations, and the increased confidence level, and the increased organization level. I just really love the fulfillment of helping these people, whatever that situation is, move to that next phase of life. And I still have clients call me multiple years after closing where they've moved on, and just to call me to see how I'm doing and to check in and say, hey, I'm doing great. Thank you so much again for what you did. I just want to see how you're doing. Is your business going well? Are you still doing it? Are you out there? And I'm like, yeah, I'm still helping people. And nothing makes you feel better than having somebody reach out and, a year or two after you do help them, and they grow to their next situation, and for them to reach back out and tell you how wonderful they and their family are doing is really fulfilling.
That's
It's a
wonderful.
great feeling.
It sounds like you found so much more than real estate with Freedom Mentor, and it's affected the whole of your life. It's affecting your children's future. Uh, Thank you so much for sharing all that, Scott. It's been wonderful having you here, and thank you for sharing about the deals that you've completed and what you have coming. I know I look forward to continuing to work with you, and really appreciate everything you've contributed to this today. Thank you.
You got it, Brian. Thank you for everything too, as well. And you've been a great mentor, and a great friend. So I appreciate that, and I'm happy to do it.
As Scott shared with us, he was stuck on the 40-year career path that was not solving his financial struggles. He was just exchanging time for money and never getting ahead. He knew he could achieve so much more, but he needed the right opportunity and experienced partners to change his life. He was always willing to put in the hard work, but didn't want to sacrifice all his time with his wife and children. Thanks to Freedom Mentor and Creative Real Estate, Scott has now not only taken control of his time, but adding 6 figures to his annual income has allowed him to take control of his finances, to develop personally, and to lead his family to a bright future ahead. If you want the opportunity to transition out of a career path that's heading nowhere fast and find fulfillment and confidence that you need to transform your future, apply to our apprentice program, where our team will mentor, coach, and guide you to financial success. There's a link in the description and in the top right corner. Again, if you have any questions for us, text FREEDOM to 305-315-8030 or comment below. And if you haven't read it, get your free copy of the best-selling book, How to Be a Real Estate Investor. I'm Brian Bush with FreedomMentor.com. If you gain more real estate wisdom through this video, be sure to like and subscribe and comment. Thanks for watching.